From the MiOhio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio, this is Round 6, Race 1 of the Intercontinental Trophy Cup. Hello everyone, Jeremy Scott here alongside Calvin Krug. Calvin, this is such a wonderful track. It's a historic track, and it's great to be back here for the second year in a row.
Oh, yes it is. MidOhio has always been one of my favorites. It's a really cool track, like a lot of history.
All right, now let's give you the starting lineup here shortly, but first, the reason why you're seeing all these cars, we were actually with the NASA Midwest and Great Lakes region. This is a combined weekend, the final weekend before the NASA Championships presented by Toyo Tires. So there's going to be a lot of traffic. You'll see a lot of different cars involved, from your GTS 5 cars to your 944 spec cars. We'll explain that later, as right now we do see the cars coming into the picture through the carousel. And we did see at the head of the field, Dan Clark once again. Well, what a stellar season he's had so far. He'll be alongside Bob Schneider in the number 40. That will be row 1. Row 2 will be the 16X of Tom Bloom alongside your P2 class pole sitter, the 158 of Jeff Isringhausen. Chuck Harris is in the 551. He carries one of our in-car camera cars. He'll be alongside Gary Brussell in the 125, as we right now see Chuck Harris, his in-car camera, as they approach the keyhole. We do see Wave 1, which is the GTS classes, coming out of the keyhole, heading down the front straightaway. We start on the back straightaway. Row 4 is Ralph Mayer in the 21, and alongside him is our another in-car camera, as we see Cameron McIntyre poke his way through the keyhole, and behind him will be Jeff Curtis in the number 64. There's Jeff, as now the field starts to form up, heading down into the kink, where we will see the start. And the reason why we see this, more room heading down into that first corner, which is turn number 4. Green flag is out, and we are underway, still side by side. We do see Jeff Curtis challenging the 125 of Gary Brussell, and he's now going to go to the outside of Chuck Harris, heading into turn 4. Will he make the pass stick? A little bit slippery there. No, he does not. Now the field's starting to come single file through Madness. That's the one place where you want to stay single file, and Harris tries the outside. He's going to now look to the inside. We do see the 21 of Ralph Mayer ahead of Cameron McIntyre in the 25X, as we do see a battle right now between Curtis and the 551 of Harris. Now they heading off into turn number 8. So Calvin, a very great start for a lot of drivers. Now they're starting to be single file and catch up to this GTS traffic. Will that play a part in the early stages of this race?
Oh yes, absolutely. Traffic will definitely be a factor in this race. Drivers like Dan Clark have a lot of experience driving in a field like this, but some of the guys don't have quite so much, and they have a little more trouble with it.
Oh, we saw Dan Clark go 3 wide, allowing the slower GTS 1 and 2 traffic. Now he's going to try and tuck in behind. So Dan Clark already making his way around the field. We do see the 64 of Jeff Curtis ahead of the 551 of Chuck Harris. Heading through turn number 1, as it looks like Harris now all over the back of Isringhausen. So we're starting to see Jeff and Jeff go together. Now Curtis goes to the outside, and he's going to take the position around Isringhausen. Ooh, what happened to Isringhausen? He's lost 2 spots. And now Harris trying to challenge Curtis, as he's going to go to the inside of a slower GTS car, and Isringhausen's going to join him. So Curtis and Isringhausen now in a dogfight for the B2 class right now, but Curtis once again puts himself between he and another slower GTS car. I believe that is JP Verboot. He's out of Canada, one of the NASA Great Lakes competitors. And now your 3 competitors, and wow, Harris dives deep into turn 4. He's got to watch out, because China Beach is very inviting. Man, he makes the pass stick. Now we go back to McIntyre, McIntyre making his first start, wants to appease the boss, but I'm sure he doesn't want to pass him, Calvin.
No, that wouldn't be a good thing.
Yeah, just really competitive, so I think McIntyre might learn a thing or two from Isringhausen, the dealer out of Springfield, Illinois. Now we're taking a look at Bob Schneider, the in-car camera. Look at how much input he has. Calvin, looks like the track is damp, but it is dry. And yeah, we see Curtis coming out of 7. Normal conditions, it's a little squirrely, but it gets a little bit more squirrely. Let's see, yeah, out of 80, it's a little squirrely too.
Yeah, we did have a little bit of rain early today, and it looks like it's starting to dry out online, but if they get a little bit wide, it does get a little bit slick out there.
Yeah, and what's not helping either is the fact, look, we can still have cloud cover. Here's Dan Clark making his way around the carousel to complete yet another lap. Then we have to go all the way back to find the next battle, and that's for second place overall between Schneider and Bloom. They're side by side now. Schneider and Bloom are through turn 1, as now McIntyre goes to the inside of the 158 of Isringhausen. Isringhausen shuts the door on through turn 1. Nice little defensive driving plays. Maybe McIntyre may not try that again because you can easily shut the door at 1. But he's going to try attack again through 2. Great line to attack through 2 as Isringhausen looks to defend, as now we look back at the 551 of Chuck Harris goes around the outside. He may lose a position or two. Great panic in the number 44 holds him off. That's for overall position, not necessarily ITC position. Now we see Curtis jumping away just a little bit. It looks like all is well so far, but no, Harris deep on the brakes, as they're going to go side by side through turn number 4. Can they keep it side by side through Madness? Yes, they do, but they may involve Schneider, 2, almost 3 wide. Curtis and Harris go around Schneider, and now they set their sights on the 16X of Tom Bloom. We look back at Curtis, and he has a front visor full of the 60X of Tom Bloom. So from the back to the front, Curtis really making the most of this start here at MidOhio.
Yeah, and we're really starting to get into some other classic cars here. A lot of traffic really starting to affect the field a little bit.
Yeah, we're starting to see some of the GTS 5 class and GTS 4 classes involved as well. Here's Harris approaching one of those cars. Now, a lot of these cars are prepping for the championships later on in September, so to have these faster ITC cars there, it's kind of giving them a little bit of a challenge. Bloom going around the inside of one of those cars. It's Magalotti, actually, in the number 85. Bloom goes around him, as now Curtis making Magalotti the meat in the sandwich. Of course, Curtis has some nice deep braking. Whoa, little wiggle from Bloom. Bloom's a little loose in the the keyhole. Keyhole is one of those weird corners where you set up, you think you're good, and in the middle of the apex, sometimes you're not so good.
Yeah, that's not a place where you want to make a mistake, definitely.
And we see a lot of those, and right here in China Beach, you don't want to end up there because that'll be a bad way to end your day. We do see the battle between Harris and Curtis up ahead from the 25X of McIntyre. Now, we do have different significations, like Isringhausen. Normally he's 58. He has a 158. That's because in this storm group, there are other drivers who normally have that number. So, unfortunately, because we are the visiting group, we have to kind of change our numbers just a little bit. We do see the 64 of Harris. He's starting to inch away from the 551 of, Curtis. Harris is in the 551. They're going to come out of Thunder Valley, and they'll take the right-hander through the carousel, and it looks like Bloom might have his windshield wipers on. We've been having some weird intermittent weather here this weekend at MidOhio. This weekend, of course, here at MidOhio, there's a reason why they call it MidOhio, because it always rains at least once a weekend.
Absolutely, it does.
And this is a short 40-minute sprint race, so we might see weather come into play. If that's the case, all these guys, wow, Panic looking good. Schneider on the outside one. Anyway, these guys really can't change tires at the last second. It's not like an endurance race where it's an hour long, as Schneider may have a challenger in the 25X of McIntyre through the keyhole. Yes, he will. McIntyre looking around the outside. He's going to try and stranglehold him. No, he does not, as Schneider able to get back on the gas just a little bit sooner. But McIntyre says, I'm not done with you yet, as now we return back to the 551 of Harris, still trying to get around Magalotti, that is, and catch up to the 64 of Harris. Coming out of Madness, not able to do that, as we do see Curtis going to come up on some even slower traffic. Looks like a GTS 2 car. Now you see significations right there on the back, the orange letters GTS. A lot of the classes, especially in your amateur racing classes, will have that signification on the back with their numbers.
Yes, and one nice thing about the Jeff Curtis car, the data, if you look at it, it's got the speedo down the corner and a little track map up in the upper right-hand corner. When we get back to that car, you'll see that, so you can kind of keep track of what the car is.
Yeah, and a lot of these cars, you're seeing GoPros. The ones that have the telemetry are, they use TrackMate or some other form of in-car video. And that depends on the coaching. And I love that view out of Bob Schneider's number 40. The car looks sharp, and you get to see the input and how tough it is to get around this racetrack. The first half of the track we're at right now, it's all horsepower. But the second half of the track, it takes a lot of skill and a lot of finesse to work your way around. That's why it is the ultimate sports car course.
Absolutely. That's the great thing about this track. It's not just one or the other. It's very much a combination of things.
I'll tell you, Magalotti's given Harris a run for his money. That's for overall position. We bounce back to the 25X of Cameron McIntyre, and he has some slower GTS 1 and 2 traffic. Now let's talk about some of the classes here in ITC. We talk about the P1 and P2 class, Calvin. What is that all about?
Well, the P1 class is for the newer generation of Cayman, which has a little bit more horsepower, so it's going to be a little bit faster. Then the P2 car is the first generation, which is about 25 horsepower less. So it's a little bit slower, but it's still fairly competitive.
And we saw with Isringhausen, the reason why he slowed up is because 25 horsepower means a lot on the straightaways.
Yes, it does. And not only horsepower, but the torque makes a big difference too.
And I think we'll see a lot of that happen in our next round, and that's at Road America in October. Such a beautiful place to be in October.
Oh, yes, and that is definitely a horsepower track too.
That's one of my favorites. A track where, you could see anything, and yeah, it's such a fun track. We're still focusing on the battle between Curtis and Harris. Curtis taking more of the outside approach through the carousel. Harris taking it nice and tight, hoping that either Magalotti or Curtis will make a mistake. Neither has done so. I tell you what, if I'm Harris, I'm trying to figure out how to get around Magalotti, because it's like, I'm not running your series, you're not running my series, let's work together.
Yes, but that green 911 does seem to be awfully wide and hard to get around.
As we do see Enzo Campagnolo giving problems to the 25X of Cameron McIntyre. Enzo's a very competitive driver, knows his way around Mid-Ohio, as now we see McIntyre dive around the inside of Campagnolo. Harris looking to the inside of Magalotti, I'm sorry. Not able to get it done. Magalotti says, nice try, as it looks like he's hanging nice with Curtis. And this is such a great battle here where they're into the kink. And I'll tell you what, Dan Clark has run away with the field again. It seems like that this is just the story of the season.
Yeah, he gets into traffic and he just checks on everybody else, because it's like the traffic's not even there when he's out there.
Well, Dan's previously raced here at Mid-Ohio in World Challenge a couple years ago in the touring car class, and he's also raced in the Firestone Indy Lights, second place in 2010, so he knows his way around here.
Yes, he does. He's been a lot of fun to watch this year in the ITC series. 8
wins in a row, starting at New Jersey Motorsports Park. And here's an interesting fact, Calvin. Who's the only driver besides Clark to win this year?
Tim Fox.
That's correct. Wow, Magalotti looking to the inside of Curtis as they come out of Thunder Valley. And Magalotti not having the right line, but he's still going to try and look to the inside of the carousel. Now Curtis takes the nice tight approach. Kind of more of a defensive line. They come out of turn number 12. Whoa, looks like Dan Pena getting a little sideways. Yeah, he's getting sideways, and that's a battle for the 944 spec lead between those top 3 cars. But we go back to the battle between Curtis and Harris. Magalotti's he's just along for the ride. He's the meat in the Cayman sandwich. Magalotti looks to the inside, and it's going to be who's going to break later. Curtis, wow, look at the outside. Magalotti has the line, and now that gives Harris a chance to look to the inside. They're going to be side by side through the back straightaway. What's going to happen? Well, Curtis has the great line through the back straightaway. He'll come around the cake. Oh, hang on. We got a slower GTS 3. Hey, wow, Harris just blows by, and that just goes to show you what slower traffic can do to you.
Yes, it does, and you can see Curtis was not very happy. He raised his hand there, just really frustrated that he got caught behind a slower car.
And that's the glory of multi-class racing. Now Curtis all over the back of the 551 to Harris. Harris taking more of an outside line, and he loses a little bit of ground because there's a lot of rubber up there. It may be damp, yes, but wow, Curtis goes to the inside in turn number 7. Now he goes through 8, and he has the line, so he has the position back. Here's Clark. Wow, he's in a class all of his own.
Yeah, he is about 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the field right now.
McIntyre still trying to catch up to Isringhausen. And that's an out-of-class battle. Isringhausen P2 this weekend. P1 McIntyre as the two cars. Now we do see the 551 of Chuck Harris. As here comes Ed Baus. And he's a faster GTS 4 car. We're going to see a lot of these passes as we are nearing the end of the race. Now, when we talk about GTS 4 cars, there's a significant class structure. Here comes Harris around the inside of Curtis. Curtis says, no way. They go back in nose to tail through the front straightaway to compete another lap. Anyway, GTS 5 is your faster of the GTS cars, and GTS 1 the slower. Stationary yellow at Station 1, and we have a 944 car off in the gravel trap there at 1. But we do see the 551 to Harris. He's catching up to Curtis. Dives deep into the keyhole, takes a position, but will it be enough? Whoa, Harris, a little bit of a wiggle, goes to the outside, and then, yes, that's going to give Curtis the chance to take the position back. So a little bit of a switch over. Now we go back. Whoa, spinner! The 125 of Gary Broussel spins coming out of 1, goes off wisely, and it looks like his fuel door is open. I wonder if he triggered that or on spin.
No, they just don't have a latch on there, so anytime the car goes backwards, it pops open.
A little bit of momentum. As we see, Harris has gotten back around the 64 of Curtis as both cars going through madness. Now taking on a slower Spec E30 BMW. We go around the inside of turn number 6, down nose to tail. We are back on with the 25 of Cameron McIntyre as he looks like he's in a class of his own right now. Having Brant Jerry around him in turn 6, it looks like, yeah. And for some reason, McIntyre's having a little bit of a problem, it looks like.
Might have scared himself a little bit there.
Yeah, a lot of cars on the track. We have estimated about 50 cars per class because of the championships warm-up. So a lot of traffic out there coming out of Thunder Valley. Now we watch through the carousel as we do see Curtis has lost a little bit of ground to Harris. Harris now comes across to complete yet another lap of competition. He still has Curtis, though. That white Porsche in his mirrors. Now a waving yellow turn 1. And it looks like the safety crew going to fish out the 944 spec Porsche out of the gravel trap as a little bit of slower traffic. We'll see. Look to the inside. We may see someone blow past. NASA rules signify that your yellow point is from the point of the flag all the way to past the point of the incident, so the cars can race now. And of course, this is one of a handful of events with NASA. Calvin, we've also raced with a couple other organizations, PCA being one of them.
Yes, we raced our first 3 events this year with Porsche Club America, the Assembly region with them, but now we're going to finish the season with NASA.
Yeah, great to see NASA partner up with the ITC. We're on with the 125 of Broussel as it looks like Mara is his next target. Here is that beautiful number 16, Tom Bloom. And now we're back on with Chuck Harris. Chuck is all by himself ahead of him, but behind him he still has the 64 of Jeff Curtis.
I believe Jeff is actually behind him right now.
Well, that's what I meant, behind. It's been a long weekend already, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, it has.
Here comes Bloom around the inside of, it looks like, Palmieri, the 022X. As now we're looking at the carousel cam. Oh, McIntyre, looks like that camera's working its way a little loose as he heads through 1. We're back to green at turn 1. Looks like, yes, the 944 is out. The safety truck is back. So now we can go back to racing through that section. Well, heading into the keyhole, one of my favorite corners in all of motorsports because of the decreasing radius. It's so cool. 2 stories down from the entry to the apex that sets you up for one of the more challenging sections of the racetrack, and that is 4 through 8, the S's. And you You see that McIntyre having a little bit of a problem trying to get around the GTS traffic, and McIntyre using those wonderful brakes in the damp area. Does he save it? Yeah, he's going to make it through and head off into madness.
Yeah, the Caymans do have a really nice braking package. They can outbrake a lot of the BMW and some of the other classes of cars quite easily.
Watching the madness cam, here is the 25X of McIntyre. Beautiful shot. That's actually one of my favorite places you see camera pit shots, especially for the start. Not so much for Marco Andretti several years ago. Now we're coming through Thunder Valley. And when you're up in the booth, sometimes you're lucky to see the cars come out of Thunder Valley. It's so neat to see. And very interesting, but let's talk about Cameron McIntyre making his first start of the season in that 25X. Isringhausen sponsor Cayman. Kevin looks like he's holding his own pretty well.
Yeah, he's doing quite well for his first time out.
Here comes Curtis in the number 64 as he comes down through the keyhole. And yeah, you take a look at the upper right of your screen. Now we get to see the GPS tracking of where Curtis is. A lot of your data acquisition systems will have that. Now we take a look at Chuck Harris, and he has a GoPro camera. Both are very helpful in coaching, but it's just a matter of how much you want to spend.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of different cameras out there, and we've actually used several different ones in this series to gather our video.
As it looks like one of the GTS3 competitors, Josh Harris, goes around the inside of McIntyre. Harris was very strong all weekend. Joshua Smith, I'm sorry, got the two confused. Here comes Clark. Once again, trying to get around the slower GTS traffic. But Josh Smith, he's a quick competitor out of the East Coast, and he really came to shine in the GTS3 class. As now we are on the carousel. Here it comes, the 551 of Harris. Now, some drivers like to have the lights on, some off. Calvin, what is the main difference? Does it help you out through slower traffic?
Yes, it lets some of the slower cars in front of you know that you're back there and you're coming up, so and it makes you a little bit easier to spot in their mirrors also.
Of course, you think with the yellow Cayman, the Harris would be easy to spot anyway.
Yeah, but it never hurts to have a little bit more.
And we're now on with Jeff Curtis. It's a Jeff show in P2, but Curtis, he's really showing that he can really hang with the big boys here in ITC.
Yes, he's been a very good competitor this year. He's really put on quite a good show for us.
As Curtis goes to the inside of a slower 944 spec, we do see Brussel and Mara still enthralled in a battle of their own. They're coming through the kink, and this looks like this is the battle of the race so far. Mara on the brakes, and Brussel's going to try to go a little bit breaker later. Not going to happen. Through turn 4, can he make it through 5? Madness. This is a neat corner because the apex of the corner, you fall away, so you got to make sure the car is set up just right for turn 6.
Oh yeah, it's quite a fun little corner there. A little scary.
Speedy Dan living up to his moniker around the carousel. And once again, we are back on with the 25X of McIntyre. A little bit bumpy through there and heavy on the brakes through the right-hander of turn 8. We do see Bloom approaching some slower 944 traffic. Of course, behind him, he has Ed Bouse in the number 25. Calvin, I have to say, this, it's not a big field, but it's a very competitive field. There seems to be battles no matter where you look.
Yeah, that's why we like this series, because being a spec car, we try to keep all the cars very competitive and close to each other, because that's what racing's all about.
And it's less damage than Spec Miata too, so that's always a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. We don't like fixing cars.
Yeah, fixing cars, especially Porsches, can get very expensive quick, but the Cayman, one of the more racier cars in the Porsche lineup. It's great to see a Spec Cayman series, first of all. Wow, a little bit of 3-wide action just ahead of Harris. Harris is going to make it 4-wide. Yep. And he says, I'm not going to take any part of this.
Yeah, he just got through there in a hurry.
Yeah. With the 944s, anything can happen. Of course, they're not as dangerous as the Miatas, so thank goodness the Miatas aren't here. Nothing against Miatas. Great to see them racing in big numbers. Here comes the 64 of Curtis. Clear track ahead of him. Now's the time when you set on your braking points, take a look at the gauges, thinking, okay, let's try see what happened if I do this. Turns in just about right. Wow, looks like Isringhausen says thank you very much. As now it's the Jeff and Jeff show, part 2 this race. Curtis all over the back of Isringhausen. They head off into turn number 6, the right-hander. Isringhausen watching his mirrors, and of course Curtis looks to the inside. Wow, almost touch. You can put a piece of paper between the two, barely, as there's a little bit of a gap now. Isringhausen, we lose bail, but Isringhausen ahead of Curtis in turn 8, and is this an instant replay? But no, it's not. It looks like Roussel spinning once again, and the fuel door slows him down once again.
Yep, same place, opposite direction.
And he's going to re-enter the course about the same place where he spun. What goes through your mind, Calvin, when you spin at the same place twice in a race?
I don't think I can say that right now. There might be children listening.
Yeah, it kind of messes with your cycle a little bit. Here comes McIntyre. Coming out of Thunder Valley, the left-handed turn number 10. Sets himself up for 11. We got to thank the great corner workers out here at MidOhio. Lake Erie Communications doing such a great job once again, making sure the track stays safe. And it looks like we probably back to green. And yeah, we are. No, yes, actually that jig sign up there kind of throws you off a little bit, but back underway to green, and Rousseau was nice enough not to dirty the track up behind him.
Yeah, and it looks like in both of his spins, he just caught the curbing coming out of the pit lane a little bit and just upset the car and unloaded the back end and went around.
And we'll take a look at that curbing next time by while we have an in-car camera there. But that's to separate the pit out lane from the racetrack. Here comes Harris deep on the brakes in turn number 4. He's turned in a little late, but in that instance, you kind of have to. Now he's approaching some more slower traffic in the form of Wiesen and Panic through turn number 6 under the Honda Bridge. As we're back onto the battle between Curtis and Isringhausen. Curtis looks to the inside. Isringhausen says no way. Isringhausen with the defensive exit through turn number 5. Nose to tail. Curtis a little wider through turn number 6. Great battle here we have on your video boards here as the 158 of Isringhausen. He's checking his mirrors and he sees an all-white Cayman of Curtis. Let's see what Curtis has for Isringhausen. They come through the carousel. Great view as we do see Isringhausen a little bit higher. That may compromise his exit speed. Now we're taking a look at Isringhausen shutting the door. Here's that curbing, the red and white markings. You hit that too much and you're going off. I've heard several drivers, doesn't matter if they're pro or not, who said stay off that curbing. Now Isringhausen tries to look to the inside of Panic. He does as Panic goes way high. And wow, did you see all that steering input from Curtis? That was a lot of steering input. Of course, well, one car deep on the brakes, sliding off. Back underway. We're on to Harris's car as he is really trying to get around some 944 traffic into turn number 4. And I have to say, Calvin, now that Harris doesn't have anyone else to battle, he now has to battle slower traffic.
Yeah, and this is where you can really see the speed difference between the different classes. Like the 944s are much slower in a straight line. You see there's blew right by one of them.
Whoa, a little bit of possible touch between Curtis and Isringhausen. Slower GTS 2 traffic. Will they try and split the uprights? No, the 71 shuts the door on them through the Madness corner. And now we're back to McIntyre. McIntyre trying to look to the inside of a Spec E30 BMW. Makes easy work of them. And of course the Spec classes, 944 Spec and Spec E30, don't have the aerodynamic advantages like you see on Dan Clark's car of the wing.
This is true. They don't have the wing. They don't have the front splitter, and they probably don't have quite as much horsepower either.
We saw the checker flag. Dan Clark is your winner. We're on board now with Curtis as he deals with the slower 944 Spec car right ahead of him. Here comes Bloom. looks like he will come across the line in second place, as we do see the 551 of Harris coming across the line. Here comes McIntyre. He finishes first race for ITC, and also we do see Gary Broussel crossing the line. I think he was glad to see those checker flags. Now we're back to Curtis and Isringhausen. Coming around turn 12, here comes Joshua Smith to the outside, but that's no consolation. As right now, Curtis comes across the line. Curtis, fist in the air. He wins the P2 class. And what a race it was for every driver. A lot of them had to deal with a lot of lap traffic. Here are your results. In the P1 class, Dan Clark wins in P1 and overall. Second place, number 16 of Tom Bloom. Chuck Harris rounds out your podium in third place. Fourth is the 21 of Ralph Mara. Fifth, making his debut appearance this season, Cameron McIntyre. Sixth is Gary Broussel. I believe he's also making his first start of the season. That's correct. And out of the race early, unfortunately, was Bob Schneider with a clutch issue. We'll hopefully get that situated for the next race Sunday afternoon. And your P2 class, Jeff Curtis edges out Jeff Isringhausen for that class victory. And I'll tell you this, it seems like Jeff Curtis, very racing the P2 class, and Isringhausen gave him a run for his money near the end of the race.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely the Jeff and Jeff show out there. They looked like they were having a good time and had a really great battle the whole race.
Well, I say this, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's race. It's going to be, I have to say, it's going to be a great race for not only the overall win, but the P2 class. If we saw what we saw today, tomorrow, it's going to be one of the more greatest races in ITC this season.
Yeah, and hopefully Bob Schneider will be able to get his car put back together, whatever the problem was with it, and get it back out there tomorrow too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this broadcast of racing here at MidOhio in the Intercontinental Trophy Cup. I'm Jeremy Scott alongside Calvin Krug, and we will see you next time. Once again, your winner, Dan Clark in the P1 class and Jeff Curtis in the P2 class. Take care, everybody.